You're tossing and turning at midnight, replaying the moment you got pulled over and staring at that folded yellow slip of paper on your nightstand, wondering what happens if you just throw it in the trash. You're exhausted, you're frustrated, and you're seriously thinking about pretending the whole thing never happened. It's incredibly tempting to just ignore it, but I'm going to walk you through exactly what happens, hour by hour and week by week, if you try to ghost the system. This is strictly education, not legal advice, because laws vary by state and change constantly. We're just looking at how the machine generally runs. Let's start the clock from the moment you decide to do absolutely nothing. You get pulled over on a Tuesday. The officer hands you a carbon copy ticket for going 20 miles over the speed limit. You look at the bottom of the ticket, and you'll usually see a court date scheduled about 3 or 4 weeks out. When you sign that ticket, you aren't pleading guilty. You're signing a promise to either pay the fine before that date or show up in court to dispute it. It's basically a legally binding IOU to the local court. You take the piece of paper, you drive home, and you stick it in your junk drawer. 3 weeks go by. Let's simulate the actual day you chose to ignore. Your court date arrives on a Wednesday morning. You wake up, you go to your regular job, and you don't go to the courthouse. When you don't show up, the judge doesn't send a search party to your house. The judge simply waits a few hours, sees that you aren't there, and announces that you failed to appear. Failing to appear just means you missed your scheduled court date without a valid, pre-approved reason. The judge then immediately marks you as guilty on the original charge. That 20 miles over the speeding limit becomes a final, locked-in conviction. The court assesses the fine, tax on mandatory court costs, and sometimes adds extra penalty fees just for skipping town. The judge might also add points to your driving record. Points are basically strikes against your license that the government uses to track bad driving habits. Too many points, and the state suspends your privilege to drive. About 2 weeks after your missed court date, you check your mailbox and find a much thicker, scarier envelope. This is a notice of conviction and a demand for payment. The court expects you to pay that new, larger balance within 30 days. You might look at the total, see it's way higher than the original ticket, and decide you still can't pay it right now. So, you shove this new letter back in the mailbox and try to forget about it. Let's fast forward another 60 days. The 30-day payment window has officially closed. The court gets annoyed that you ignored the payment demand, so they take it to the next level. The judge signs a new piece of paper placing you in default. A default judgment is a binding court order that says you owe the money no matter what, because you didn't respond or fight it. Once you're in default, the court doesn't just wait around for a check. They refer your debt to a collections agency or a special state tax offset program. A tax offset program just means the government can legally intercept your state or federal tax refund and keep it to pay off your ticket. You might be counting on a big refund in April to fix your truck, but the state simply grabs it first to satisfy the debt. On top of that, the collections agency starts calling your house and sending aggressive letters, adding their own hefty collection fees to your total balance. Now we move into month 4. The court system realizes that grabbing your tax refund wasn't enough to cover the debt, so they aim directly at your livelihood. The judge issues an order to the Department of Motor Vehicles to suspend your driver's license. You probably won't even know this happened until you're driving to work and you get pulled over for a broken taillight. The officer runs your plates, comes back to your window, and arrests you on the spot. Why? Because now you're driving while suspended. The judge issues something called a bench warrant. A bench warrant is a direct order from the judge to the police to arrest you and bring you to court. It doesn't mean they're actively hunting you, but if you encounter law enforcement for absolutely any reason, that warrant pops up on their computer. You could be a passenger in a friend's car during a routine traffic stop, and suddenly you're going to jail in front of your buddies. Month 6 rolls around. You've lost your license, your tax refund is gone, and you're terrified to drive. But you still haven't resolved the underlying issue. Now, you receive a final notice from the court. They're giving you one last chance to pay the massive, ballooned balance, which now includes the original fine, late fees, collection fees, and court costs. You throw the notice away again, thinking they can't really do anything else to you. You're wrong. The court decides to escalate the financial attack by going after your paycheck. They issue a wage garnishment order. A wage garnishment is a legal procedure where the court orders your employer to automatically deduct money from your hard-earned paycheck before you ever see it. The court sends a notice directly to your boss. If you work at a warehouse or a factory, your human resources department gets the letter. They legally must comply. When payday rolls around, your direct deposit is significantly smaller. The court takes a percentage of your paycheck and keeps taking it until the entire debt is paid off. Now your employer knows you've trouble with the law, and you're working the same shifts for a fraction of the pay. This whole disaster happens because you treated a simple piece of paper like it would just disappear. It won't. Ignoring a traffic ticket never makes it go away. It just feeds the ticket into a giant legal machine that slowly grinds up your time, your money, and your freedom. Every time you ignore a step, the machine adds a fee, adds a penalty, or takes away a right. So, how do you actually handle it before the machine swallows you whole? The moment you get the ticket, you choices. You can simply pay the fine before the court date, which closes the case. You can request traffic school, which is a short defensive driving course you pay for and complete to keep the ticket off your public driving record. You can show up to your court date and negotiate. Sometimes, if you show up and talk to the prosecutor, they'll reduce the speed on the ticket so you get fewer points and pay a smaller fine. You can also fight the ticket entirely if you think the officer was wrong by bringing evidence and witnesses to prove your innocence. If you've already missed your court date, the solution isn't to hide. You'll eventually need to call the courthouse and ask if you can file a motion to set aside the default. A motion to set aside is just a formal request asking the judge to erase the automatic guilty verdict and give you a second chance to be heard. Judges often grant these if you act quickly, explain your situation, and promise to resolve the case. If you're already drowning in late fees and collections, ask the court clerk if they offer a payment plan. Many jurisdictions will let you pay $50 a month just to keep the debt active without suspending your license or garnishing your wages. And if you're staring down the barrel of a suspended license or a warrant, that's the exact moment you need to call a local traffic attorney. A local lawyer knows the specific rules in your jurisdiction, and they can often walk into the courthouse, navigate the paperwork, and reset the clock for you so you can avoid getting arrested on your way to work. The entire system is designed to force you to engage. When you ignore it, the penalties multiply. When you communicate, even if you don't have the cash, the courts are usually willing to set up a structured plan. They just want to know you haven't vanished. Play the game smart, keep your head out of the sand, and protect your wallet from the legal machine. Have you ever ignored a small ticket and watched it turn into a massive financial nightmare? Tell me your craziest traffic court story down in the comments. If this breakdown helped you understand the exact timeline of what happens when you ghost a ticket, please pass the video along to a buddy who might be dodging a court date right now. And make sure you subscribe to Scribble Law so you always know the actual rules of the game before the legal system tries to use the system against your family.